Well, hello there. We are live. Welcome back. I am back, I should say. Okay. All right. So today we're going to do a fun project created by Kim St. Jean, and it's kind of a fun project. Well, it's not kind of, it is a fun project. I have made quite a few of these pendants actually, and also earrings to go along with them in a little smaller version. I'm gonna bring the camera down here a bit. I hope you guys are all doing well. Let's see here. It's quiet right now. My husband went to get our grandson from school, so all hell will break loose around 4 o'clock. So I have a little bit of time, uninterrupted time right now. So I am glad to be back. All right. Okay, so this is the project. This is the urban pinecone, and as a pendant, and then I made a pair of earrings to go along with it, which are kind of fun. Let me back this up a little bit. I think that might be a little better. You can see better. Okay. So we just are just making a smaller version. I'm not going to make the earrings today, but it's just smaller discs of the same amount for each ear. Okay. All right. So for this, Kim St. Jean is the author, and it is coming from, the book is coming, or the project is coming from her book, Mixed Metal Mania. I know it's backwards, but this is the book, and it's got tons of fun projects in here. This is the one, the urban pinecone, that we're going to be doing today. I know some of you were able to get books. They are out of print, and Kim suggested that I just photocopy the directions from the book, since the publisher is no longer in business. She has no problem with that, so I photocopied these 2 pages of instructions, and they will be in the file section after the broadcast. I went ahead and I just put a picture of what I had done with them, and then a few references on here. So you'll find that in the files as well. Okay. So there's not too many supplies, which is kind of nice. Let me see here. And I did make a little bit of variation in here because I just always do. It's just something, I don't know, it's just something about me that I kind of put my own spin on things. But you can certainly do it exactly as the book directs, or you know, you can switch it up a little bit, whatever you like. I know Kim in the book puts little spacers in between each of the discs, and at the time that I made this, I had some 5mm copper beads, and I put those in between each layer, and I thought it was a nice distance between each layer, but you know, that's just me. So you can put something else if you want. I'll show you as we construct this a couple of other ideas. I didn't have the spacers that she suggested, so I just thought I would try to find something else that that would work as well. So I'm going to put this to the side, and let's see here. I have to say hello to everybody. Good, there's a nice group here. Hi, everybody. If you can't watch this whole thing now, don't worry about it. You can always catch it on the replay. It's in the featured, I don't know, up at the top of the page on our group, there's a little box that says featured, and if you click on that box, you will see all of the demos that I have done for almost 2 years now. You'll see all of them according to date and title, and you can replay those at any time. I know there's a couple of them missing that Facebook deleted for whatever reason. I am getting notices now every couple of weeks if I want a video deleted that was on a couple of weeks ago, and I always hit no. I don't want to delete them, but I still keep getting those messages. So in the beginning, when that started happening, I think a few of them squeaked by, and I didn't realize that they were deleting them. So what I've done now, after each broadcast, I download it and I save it on an external hard drive. So I always have those demo videos in case something happens. If Facebook takes them off, you know, if things change, I still have those that I can maybe download on YouTube or something so that they're not lost. Because, you know, it's a lot of work, you know, making these things, and I hate to just have them go bye-bye. So it's nice if you can, you know, look at them from time to time. If you're making that particular project and you want to refer to it, it's nice to have. Okay, so let's see here. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, I have my my charm bracelet that I made a few months ago on a demo, and I think it was before I went to Tucson. And then when I was in Tucson, I found some other charms that I want to add to this. Take a few that I'm not real crazy about off and replace them with a few others. Dawn, that's funny. In case Elon Musk buys the company. Hey, you never know. That's pretty darn crazy, though. What, $41 billion to buy something? That's pretty nutso. Anyway, I guess if you have it, you can do whatever you want. All right. Oh, good, Renee. I'm glad. Oh, it was 44 billion. I'm glad you referred to the videos, Renee. It's fun. You know, it's helpful. Put it that way. It's helpful if you're doing the project to kind of draw back on what I did. All right. So for this project, this shirt is gonna choke me. Sorry. For this project, I'm using a disc cutter. I've got one of these old model Peppy disc cutters. It's worth its weight in gold. I'm telling you, if you don't have a disc cutter, buy a good disc cutter if you can. They are so very helpful. So we're going to use a disc cutter. Also, whenever you use the disc cutter, you should use some lubrication on the punches, which I will show you. I am using 18 gauge copper wire. I had originally, when I first made the projects, I used 14 gauge. This was a little bit heavier, but I've since made them in 18 gauge and they're just fine. So it's just a matter of how you want it to look. So there's that. And also, I am using, now in the days before I had a rolling mill and a lot of other tools, I was buying sheets of stamped copper from Metalliferous, which is in the handout, the name of it, that you can find it online. They are in business still, and they make a whole bunch of different patterned copper sheets. They also make it in brass. I don't think they have it in anything else. I'm not sure, but I know they have it copper and brass. It is 24 gauge. But if you're making your own, if you're pressing your own designs, you can make any gauge you want, just whatever you like. But the 24 gauge is nice because it's lighter. If you're making, especially for earrings, it's lighter weight. I don't like to have heavy earrings. For some reason, they really bother my ears, the extra weight on them. So the 24 gauge is great for the earrings, but as far as the pendant goes, you can make it in whatever gauge metal you want. So anyway, the Metalliferous sheets, if you go that route, there's a lot of different patterns available. At the time, you know, I know that I refer back to the Bead and Button show, because that's where I was really exposed to a lot of this new stuff. Well, it was new to me at the time. And before I really got into this, I did mostly stringing and, you know, making little earrings with beads and things like that, which I still like to do. But before I really got introduced into metals, I learned a lot of stuff, or I should say I was exposed to a lot of stuff up at the Bead and Button show, because they had vendors of all sorts at the time, and Metalliferous did have a booth up there. But now I believe the Parawire company is handling the Metalliferous sheets. So although I really can't say that 100%, but I know Parawire has them. But I'm not sure about the Metalliferous company itself anymore, if it's still in business or not. But anyway, they have lots of different patterns if you want. And this was a great starting experience for me using these metals. So there's that. So I'm going to use those today because I still have a bunch of them. At the time that I bought these, I want to say they were probably $8 a sheet, and they're like they were like 12 inches long. I believe they may be shorter, and I'm sure they're a lot more money now, because that was probably a good 10 years ago or so. So it's like everything else. Stuff gets smaller and it gets more expensive. So that's just the way of the world anymore. All right, and I'm using a chasing hammer. Or am I? Yeah, at some point I'm going to be using the chasing hammer. I have to get a standard hammer. I forgot about that. Okay, I'll use the standard hammer for hitting the disc punch, or disc hole punches, or whatever. So, okay. So if you have the book and you haven't done any of this and you want to follow along, it's on page 74. Let's see, you need bench block, a hole punch, or a drill, whatever, dapping block. You can use stepped pliers if you want. I'm not sure what the metal shears are for, but we'll go along with that. And the metal dapping block. You'll need a metal one because the little wooden ones like this, they're not deep enough and small enough. It's limited in size. So one of the metal doming blocks gives you a lot more variety. Okay. Oh, thanks, Wendy. It says she said metalliferous is now a part of Parawire. I was thinking something to that effect, but I hadn't really confirmed it. So when I was looking up those sheets, you know, it went to the Parawire company. So so that's good. But at least you can get those if you wanted to do that. All right, so in the book, I'm going to refer to that. In the book, you are to cut. Now, this is for the pendant. This is not for earrings, but like I said, you can make the earrings according to the same way, only you would make your discs a little bit smaller if you wanted to. I don't, like I said, I don't like big honking earrings, but you know, I've seen bigger earrings than this. So if you wanted to, you could do that. Okay. Yeah, Nancy, our earlobes do tend to sag as we get older. And honestly, I think they get larger. I mean, I feel like I've got two big pancakes here hanging from my earlobes. Then I don't recall them being quite like that when I was younger and not so flabby. So anyway, yeah, why add extra weight to pull your face down? Okay, so we're going to cut on the disc cutter. This particular one I have is set up like this. It's an old model, like I said, but Pepe still makes the round disc cutters. They're wonderful. They're in a round shape now, the new ones, but that really doesn't make any difference. They still have, I believe, the same amount of cutting discs or cutting punches. So they come in these sizes here, which is 1/8, or I'm sorry, it's 1 inch, 7/8, 3/4 inch, 5/8 inch, and 1/2 inch. We're going to use all of those larger ones for this project. So I'm going to set my disc cutter on top of my bench block, and we'll start off with punching out these discs. Do not use your chasing hammer for that. I'm going to use a standard hammer for that. All right. And I will choose the designs that I want. And I'm going to put them in upside down because even though this cutter is a very nice cutter, sometimes you get a little bit of a burr. Not much, but a little bit. And I found that it's better to have the burr on the back side of the piece of metal than it is on the front for when you're filing it down. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to shim this side just to keep it even. And screw this down and take my lube and coat this cutting edge. Make sure that you put the right edge down, and then I'm going to give it a whack. It's going to be a little bit loud. As soon as you feel that break through the metal, stop pounding. Otherwise, you mar your disc. Now, see, this one had a significant burr on here. I don't know. I hope the rest of them don't get like that. I hope that my cutter is not wearing out because I've had it for a good number of years. And I don't know if they can be remachined or not, but that would kind of be a nice thing if that could happen. Sometimes the insides get nicked, and that causes, I think that helps to cause the burrs. Not sure though. So I'm just going to file that off. That comes off real easily because it's not heavy metal or thick metal. So that's disc number 1. Wow, I just made it. That I didn't check. I could have easily messed up my disc by having it that close to the other cut. All right, so now I'm going to go down one. And make sure that I'm centered on here properly. Add some lubricant on this one. There's my second one. I'm just making them on different patterns since I have the variety to use. But you could use the same, or if you didn't have patterned metal, you could use metal stamps and make a design if you wanted. Or if you had a rolling mill, you could make your patterns that way. But some people don't have those things, so there's always other ways that you can do things if you do a little thinking about it. All right, so Kathy, you said there's a YouTube video about sharpening them. Oh, I have to look that up. Okay, and I understand this part. Yeah, you could do that. I'm talking about inside too, though. Inside, sometimes they get messed up if people put them upside down or in cockeyed and then start banging. Then you can dent and scratch the inside. That's the problem that I had when I had my shop, when I would teach classes. And it was done unintentionally. It certainly wasn't, you know, a student's fault. They got confused and they'd put the punches in the wrong way. And there's no cutting edge on that side. And basically what happens if you keep banging on it, you get kind of a bottle cap effect, and then your metal gets jammed in between the two pieces. But it can also do some damage on the inside walls. But if you can sharpen these on the jewel tool, that's awesome. I never thought about that. So thank you for that. But I'll look up that YouTube video too and see about that. It's always great to learn some new stuff because I certainly don't know it all. All right, so I'm going to go down to the next size and let's see here. That would be the 3/4 inch. And you know, as you get all these cutout marks here, you can trim that off so that way the metal will fit into your disc cutter better. I feel it break through, but I don't want to hit it. Okay, here we go. Sometimes those get hung up in there a little bit. All right, 2 more to go. So that was the 3/4. Now we're going to do the 5/8, which is right here. And sure you're centered on there. There we go. You want to take good care of your tools because, number one, they're not cheap, and number two, you want them to last you a long time. All right, so now for the 1/2 inch, I have to go to the other side of my block here, my disc cutter, and I will try to line these up so I don't have so much waste, if possible. Oh. Put that in there, screw that down. All right, so that's all I need the disc cutter for now, because I've got my 5 discs. Set this to the side. Kablang, kablooey. All right, so now I'm going to just smooth these out a little bit, just file them a little. I think I might have done this one already. I know I did the first one already. If you have a jewel tool, you could take these over to the jewel tool and file those little edges off real nicely. I do have a jewel tool, but I use in my utility room, I've got hooked up to the sink, I've got a sanding drum on a motor that sprays water out, and I just usually take all my stuff in there and knock that any raggedy stuff off in just seconds. So, because it's rather messy though, but it's in there, hooked up to my utility tub. Okay. Just, oops. Oh dear. Get over here. All right. It couldn't have fallen in my lap. Okay. All right. Just a little added entertainment there. All right, those are smooth enough. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is mark where I need to punch my center holes. And I have this real technical way of doing it, high-tech. I use my grid on my work surface, and I just line up, I put my disc in the center of 4 squares. Where's my eyeballs? Oh, here we go. And, I mean, there's other ways to do this, but you know me, I'm an eyeball kind of gal, so I put this in the center and mark my holes that way. You can get off on it if you're not real careful. You can be cockeyed just a little bit. But there are other tools to do this. There are little guides and center finders, different things. But I always, and I have those things, but I always tend to go back to this. It generally works pretty well. Sometimes I get off a little bit though, and they'll hang a little bit crooked. But that's kind of the charm of it too, because it's the organic look, as we call it, when stuff doesn't quite go right. Oh, that's the look I wanted. It's organic. Okay. All right, so I've got my holes marked, but I'm not going to punch them yet. I am going to dap them first and then punch them, because I have found that if you punch your holes first and then you start dapping your shapes, a lot of times you're distorting that hole. So it's better if you punch them afterwards, after the fact. So what you do is get one of the, I'm going to refer to these as wells. You find the well that best fits your disc. And I don't want to get too perfect on it yet, because sometimes if you put the disc in a too small of a well, then your edges get kind of ruffled, and that's not what you want. And then you find the same size, or the appropriate size punch for to make your shape. Now what oh, here's the hammer. Stuff's hidden right before my eyes. All right. So I'm give this a few whacks. And you can curve them, dap them as much as you want or as little as you want. It just really depends on what you want your piece to look like. So I'm going to move this down into a smaller well with a smaller punch, just to give it a little bit more of a curve. If you really wanted to curve these a lot, then you would just keep working down, and that piece will cup even further. But this is enough. Well, I started with a smaller one. All right. I didn't start with the largest one. It doesn't matter though. All right. Now this is what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see it on here, but your edges kind of wrinkle if you're not like in the right size. You can pretty much work that out. That was actually, I went back to this, a bigger one. That was a mistake. But actually, the ruffles actually look kind of cool. But you can move your disc around a little bit and hit those edges and straighten that out. To some degree, anyway. Okay. That's number one. Oops. Wow. My water almost went off the table. Okay, so all of them are dapped. And in this case, I'm going to use a hole punch plier. Get these guys off to the side. Get a sip here. Yes, pine cones are organic. And you're right, it's not a demo for me if I don't forget something or drop something, or burn something or melt something, or all of the above. It is the law. That's just how it works. But it's real life, and you guys can understand that. All right, so I'm going to take my hole punch plier. This is a 1.8 millimeter plier, and it works just great with the 18 gauge wire. So I'm going to center that as well as possible. I mean, I think these projects that Kim has come up with in this book are genius. They're relatively easy. Some projects require a little bit more than others, but stuff like this and the orbit earrings, I just think those were genius. So kudos to Kim. All right. I mean, you can make these in just about no time flat. These do, however, the pliers tend to not want to give up the pieces very easily. Suzanne, I did and I didn't. I mean, some of them, it just depends on the size of the disc. You want to try to match the piece of metal to the size well, and then also have the appropriate size punch that fits. And then the more curve you want, you kind of work your way down a little bit to some of the different wells. So I hope that is helpful. A lot of this stuff is trial and error, believe me. That's how we learn. All right, so now I'm going to take a piece of wire. Let's see here. What length did she suggest? Well, she says 12. But I think that matters on how distant you're going to put your beads, and also how big of a loop you want on your bail. So I'm going to cut 10 inches, and we'll see how that works. And I'm going to take my bench block and my chasing hammer, and I want to make sure this end is flush cut, although that doesn't matter a super lot. And then my chasing hammer, and I'm going to pound it, but I'm also kind of stretching it, because we want to make this like a paddle, kind of paddle it out or spoon it out a little bit. With 18 gauge wire, you can't go too far. I mean, it's not going to move that far, but you know, that's why I used 14 gauge wire, because I thought the paddle should be larger. But in retrospect, it really doesn't make any difference as long as it's wide enough that your beads aren't going to fall through. You know, I think that is the object of it. Let's see here. Yeah, I did use smaller wells for the smaller discs. They basically do have the same curve. It's just a matter of how much Well, no, they don't. They're a little bit different, but I don't think it makes a bit of difference. Remember, it's it's organic. But if you want to try to make them exactly the same, you know, go for it. All right, so I've got my 18 gauge wire. I'm going to pound it and kind of push it. And it goes a little bit crookedy. That's just the nature of the wire. But you're thinning it out as well. And if you can see, this has curved to one side a little bit. And if that doesn't bother you, that's great, just the way it is. If you want to try to straighten that out a little bit, I just put it on my bench block and hold it up kind of vertically and just tap it gently to try to flatten out that curve a little bit, or move that curve a little bit. Don't hit my finger. I would love it if, oh, and to see now, I hit it a little bit too much and I kind of folded that wire. So let's fix that. I'd love to see if you guys make some of these. You could post them on the group page, and that'd be fun to see. All right, so if you've got that little bit of a curve and it bothers you, you can file. Maybe that's the better way to do it, is file some of that part that sticks out a little bit further. But honestly, I think it looks pretty good even with a little slight curve. Suzanne, did you understand what I was trying to say? I wasn't trying to be flippant or anything. I just, you know, a lot of this is just basically what you like and the look that you want to get. These can have a very rustic look, or you can have them a little bit more refined. It's totally what you want it to look like. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to just use the ball peen part of the hammer and just kind of texture that little piece that's sticking out. Just for the heck of it. All right, so now you can start to build. Now, I think I mentioned earlier, I did not have the little spacers that Kim suggested in the materials list. So I used 5mm beads because I thought that was a nice distance between each part. But you can use whatever you want. I'm going to use, this is a 4mm bead. Now, I did try to put 4mm beads in between, and then I also tried 6mm beads in between. And the 6s I thought were just spread out a little bit too far, and the 4s I didn't think there was quite enough distance between layers. So the 5s were great, but I don't have any more 5s. So I am going to put a 4mm down just as the start bead, and then put the smallest. Well, let me stop here. If you're going to patina this, which I would imagine you will, this would be the time to patina. You could take all your little individual parts and put them in the liver of sulfur and clean them all with steel wool. You could tumble them if you wanted. That's entirely up to you. But this would be the time to do it, because once it's all constructed, it just is really hard to clean the liver of sulfur off the whole constructed piece. You can't really get in there very well with the steel wool. So generally what I'll do on just about anything is I'll liver of sulfur or patina all my pieces first, and then I may give them a little round in the tumbler, but then I'll construct it all, and then sometimes I'll put them all back in the tumbler, just for a little bit extra. So that's, that's just how I do it. But it depends on the piece, really. So I'm going to start off just putting that little 4mm bead there on the bottom, and then add my first layer. And this morning I discovered you could also use small jump rings if you wanted to. I had some other copper, they look like little bally beads, but they're copper. They're just little knockoff things. But these were cheap, and they're very irregular. They're not well made, put it that way. But I did try them, space them in between with that. Those work. And I would say that's probably a 5mm-ish size bead. Or you could use, I've got 18 gauge jump rings. I think they're 3, the dimension doesn't matter, but, or not a lot anyway, but I put 3 18 gauge jump rings, and I think these are 3mm jump rings, or 3.5 at the most, in between the layers. And you just stack from smallest to largest. It's a quick and easy project. And like I said, you can space them out however you want. This is with 3. I'll show you that, and then I'll show you another stuff in between. You might even want 4 in between. Maybe as you get larger, since these kind of hang over, this is with 3. Looks rather small. This is with 5mm balls. Can you see the difference? I mean, this is so much shorter than that, but you could stack more rings up there if you wanted. I'll show you what a 4mm ball, we'll just do it that way. Or let's just see what 4 jump rings would do. It's good to play around with stuff and see what actually, you might just hit on something that works really good, and you wouldn't have known if you didn't play around a little bit with it. We'll go with 4 and see how that is. It really all depends on how you want it to look. But the jump rings actually aren't bad in there. I do like those other beads the best, though. Yeah, the 5mm spacing is, to me, that's just a really good one. Because here, I'll give you a 4mm ball. Just for shits and giggles, we'll try a few things. Even this is better than the 3 jump rings. Where's my balls? Come here, balls. I was looking through some of the projects that I've done over the years and wondering if I could, do demos on some of those things, but some of the products you can't even find anymore. It's very discouraging. This is the 4mm ball, which is still pretty close together. So now, just for the heck of it, I will show you 6mm balls. You could use tubing. You could use anything that's going to separate. I was looking for some larger crimp tubes earlier. I could swear that I had some 3mm crimp tubes. Can't find them anywhere, like 3x3s. Couldn't find them. But I think little bits of tubing would be great. Good idea, Melissa. So the 6, I think, is just too big. But that's me. But you might as well see it. I don't know where I got those 5mm from, but I'm sure they could be found again. Now see, here's 6, which really stretches it out, but you know, there again, it depends on what you want your pine cone to look like. But that's with a 6mm bead. So makes it a little bit longer. 1 ring, a ball, and a ring? Sure, why not? Let's try it. As my balls go flying all over the table. All right, 1 ring, 1 ball, and 1 ring. That's actually not bad, Wendy. Let's see. And it actually looks pretty nice. So 1 3mm jump ring, 1 4mm ball, 1 3mm jump ring, and an acorn petal, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. And what I did on the one that I did, well, I did several, but on this one, I cut out one more piece, if you can see that, as a little cap, like the same size as the very bottom one, which would be a 1/2 inch. I kind of like the way that finishes that off, but that's just me. So, you know, you could do that if you wanted. That also gives it a little bit more length. Let's see here. I do have an extra one of those. Let's see. Experiments are good. Now on the top, I don't think I would do that. I think on the top, I want that to lay just right on top. Yeah. To me, that's visually appealing to put that on there like that. Now, say if I had really perfected the placement of the holes, maybe this would not lay a little wonky like it does, but honestly, I kind of like that. Yeah. So yeah, you can get some different looks the way you assemble it, or with what you assemble it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it like this for this demo one. And then I'm going to put a 4mm bead on the top of that little cap, and then make my wire wrapped loop. And for this one, I'm going to use my long round nose pliers, but you could use small baling pliers if you wanted. Something like this, or a small wrap and tap, the small version. You could do that. So then I'm going to put my pliers right on top of that bead. I'm not leaving any space at all. So I'm putting my pliers on top, my long round nose pliers, and I'm going to push this wire away from me and then roll up my pliers. So say they sit like this, and I'm going to wrap this wire around. Actually, I want a larger bail than that. Let's see here. Maybe I will use this one. Now, it calls, like I said, it called for 12 inches of wire for assembling this, but I'm not seeing where the 12 inches is needed unless you're making a longer stem and a larger bail where you would need some extra material. But this is just making a loop, and then I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold the loop with my flat nose pliers. I'm going to cut some of this excess off. I'm going to switch hands. So I've got the loop grabbed with my flat nose pliers, and then I'm going to grab, I'm going to cut a little more off. I'm going to grab the tip of this wire with my chain nose, wherever they are, here they are, and I'm going to wrap this around at the base of the loop and get as close to that base of the loop as possible and wrap around. Generally, you want to wrap around 3 times, but you want to wrap up to that top bead. And then we're going to cut off the excess. I have a demo on, I didn't cover that, I should have. I have a demo on how to make that wire wrap loop if you're new and you haven't seen it on the Artisans Workshop business page under videos, and I just do a whole bunch of these loops, the steps, so that way you can get that down pat, because it's a very important, if you're doing any kind of beading or wire work, having that wire wrap loop down pat is really helpful. Now, I did make this a little bit too tight. I should have stopped wrapping a little bit sooner, because then what it does is it kind of like squishes all your stuff together, and there's like no movement then. And sometimes you want a little bit of movement. You want these things to move around a bit. Boy, I can see this is really off, but that's okay. All right, so then I'm going to take this loop that I just did, and I am going to hang the project over the edge and take my chasing hammer and just texture this piece. And you only have to do it on one side. Do it with the ball peen end of the chasing hammer. And just straighten it out. If you're anal enough, like sometimes I am, and want it to be perfectly round. But you can play around with this. You know, you can make other size discs. You can just do your own spin on it if you want. Or you can go right for the exact project. So it's a little wonky, but I like them like that. Now, like I said, I would have put the patina on before, because doing it now would be a pain in the butt to get in there and try to clean all those layers. So that's basically it. Then you'd put a jump ring on there and a chain, or you could put a chain just right on there, not with a jump ring. You wouldn't need that. And just put that on there. See, now this was with the 14 gauge wire, and it just makes it a little bit little chunkier, but it just depends on what you want. But there's a lot of, and I could have cupped these a little bit more. Now that I'm looking at them, these are cupped a little bit more. They look a little nicer because these are the same shape discs. I mean, the same size discs on this one as they are on this one, and this looks a lot wider. So it's just that I didn't cup them as much as I could have. So there you go. So short and sweet this week. I just thought it was a great project, you know, easy and cute, and especially nice for fall, but you could wear it anytime really. But with that, with the earrings to match, I think is a really cute little set. So I'm going to be doing every other week. I mentioned it last week that doing this every week is I like doing it, but I just don't have enough material to present all the time. So to do every other week, you know, is a little bit more doable. We'll just have to see what projects I can come up with. I have a ton of different things that I've done over the years, but a lot of them involve beading and stringing, and I don't know if there's interest in any of that. But while I was looking through some of my projects last night, I saw some things that I'd really kind of like to revisit, but I don't know if we can find all the same materials. It's disappointing to me that that they take things off of the market periodically. I just don't know if there's not enough interest in them, if they're not good sellers for the companies, but there are a lot of fun things. So if you're interested in some of the beading projects or stitching projects, I can present some of those. I'll have a lot more material then if I do that. Or I may do some variations on them too. One of the problems is a lot of the things that I taught, I would teach out of projects that I got from magazines or books or whatever, and I would get permission, you know, to use them or whatever. But I no longer have some of that information. I might have some of the pictures of the projects, but I don't know who made them. And I'm not sure if I really should do that or not without giving the author of them credit. So I could maybe make a variation of some of those things. I don't know. It's that gray area, you know, that I don't want to step on people's toes and take credit for something I didn't create. I certainly wouldn't want to do that, just like what we're doing here with Kim's. I was able to get a hold of her, so that was not a problem. But if you don't know who the author is of something, I guess I should just stay away from it or really try to alter it in some way. I don't know. You know, you tell me what you think, and maybe we can try to figure something out. But I'd have a lot more material if I could do that. So, that's going to be it for today. On Sunday morning, I'm going to create the album in our group for everybody who's doing the design challenge. So I haven't done that sort of thing yet before. So, I mean, I've made photo albums for my own personal page. I'm assuming it's the same way for the group, but I think the participants can go into that album and add the their project, and I would ask that you just, well, your post is going to have your name on it, but I would like it if you could, while you download your photo, say something about your project. I think that that would add a little bit of interest to the to us, you know, looking through them and seeing maybe, you know, what was a great idea, what wasn't a great idea, what you added that, you know, inspired you to create this piece, you know, whatever it is. Just a little bit of little blurb of something to go along with your photo. I think that would be nice. And then, you know, once the album is created, then anytime on Sunday, you can post your picture, and then we can all look at them. I just didn't want to do them sooner, you know, as you got your project done, because those who were struggling might, you know, well, I wouldn't say copy the thing, but I just want everybody's creation to be their own creation, and we see how creative our minds really are. So, all right, you guys have any questions or comments or anything? I'm gonna look through here. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Deb. I mean, I could just pop on here and say hi. Hi, how you doing? You know, that kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, if we can keep coming up with stuff, you know, then I would do it. So anyway, if you do any of the urban pine cones, please post them on the group page. I think it'll be fun to see. So thanks for being with me. I always enjoy your company, and I will post the instructions from the book and my little page with the references in just a couple of minutes, and I'll see you on Facebook. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.